Your Creative Push, episode 97.
If you follow your intuition and you know that I need to paint, I need to sing, I need to do whatever, you just have to do it. You got to find a way to get out there. Don't question yourself. I mean, leave that up to the critics to do.
Welcome to Your Creative Push, the podcast that pushes you to pursue your creative passions. I'm your host, Youngman Brown, and my guest today is Jeff Tocci. Jeff was born in the foothills of the Adirondacks, next to a frozen lake, exactly at midnight 36 years ago. He is currently thawing out in Brooklyn, and his work focuses on social commentary through representational narrative work, often utilizing satire and humor to explore social and economic topics in a direct way. Though the subject matter changes, his intention remains the same. He aims to call attention to the facets of our culture that remain unexamined, misunderstood, or underappreciated. Now, Jeff, I found you through Emily New, who's on back in episode 80, and she had a lot of respect for you for being able to bartend and still find time for your art, which is basically the point of this podcast. You know, people like me with full-time jobs, you know, inspiring us to find time to do our art and our creative pursuits. So I guess the obvious first question is, how do you do it? How do you find the time to work a job but still do your art?
That is, you talk about a lot about resistance. That really is the main form of resistance is free time. You know, I'm 37 years old. It's taken me a long time to get to the point where I can actually free up 4 days a week to work. I've worked odd jobs my whole life, crazy things, driving ice trucks and, you name it, I've done it. But, I've managed to get to a point where, you're trying to make as much money in as short a time as possible, because everything revolves around your free time, and you can't really set a specific time during the day for inspiration. I mean, some people can go in at 9 to 5 into the studio and just create. Night owls work all night, but when it strikes and you're feeling it, you kind of have to have the availability to follow through on it. So that's the main thing. And bartending is a good gig because it's you make good money hourly, and more per hour than you probably will in most jobs. So 2 or 3 days of that can almost equal, a full-time job.
Yeah, it's pretty tough though, especially when you have set hours at a place that when you get that feeling, it's almost like death when you have to go into a shift. It's like, wow, but I have all these ideas flowing through my head and I'm just like, wow, I'm just going in and only just to make a buck so that I can survive. It can be very, very tough.
Absolutely. I mean, you do a full day of work and then you go home and you eat or exercise or do whatever you got to do, hang out with your partner. And, there's really not much time left in the day before you need to crash. So it is key to have as much free time as possible. And it kind of sounds like almost like a lazy lifestyle, but it really, there's no such, when you're doing art, there's not enough hours in the day free to just have available. So that's my main advice, is just find some gig that you can do where you can maximize your income in a short period of time as possible, legally, hopefully.
Whatever. We won't judge. We
won't.
So going along with that just a little bit more, with what happens when you do get home from a shift and you're like you were feeling inspired before you went in, and you've kind of, once you've come home, you just feel tired and you're just kind of out of it and you kind of lost that creative drive, but you do have a little bit of time before bed or before whatever other obligations that you have going on. How do you utilize that time properly?
It's always good to have a little sketchbook handy or something. I guess you get to do it on a phone now too as well, just to jot things down and try to hold on to that thread of whatever it is. I really don't work at nights. I'm the best in the morning when everything's fresh. Plus natural light, obviously, as a painter is important. But you got to put things down or just store it in the back of your mind and just hold on to it. You'd be surprised how many ideas come and go and they're just lost forever. But when something's good and worth holding on to, you'll find a way to get back to it the next day or the next week or the next year.
Yeah, sometimes it does take a year. And as a writer, that's a really important thing too, is
Absolutely.
when you do get those ideas, even if you're at work or whatever, is try to repeat them in your head and try to hold on to it as long as you can until you can get to a piece of paper or your phone to jot it down. And
sure.
and then also try to make it like somewhat understandable, so that if it is a year later or more that you get to it, you're not like, what the hell? What is this?
Yeah, you don't want to lose all the spontaneity of it.
Right, that's the other thing too.
But I have paintings that have been bouncing around, marinating in the back of my head for God, I don't know, a decade probably, and they're not going anywhere. They haven't seen the light of day yet. And some of them never will. But that's part of the process. You gotta edit. You gotta decide. Once you have several ideas that you want to do, you gotta decide which one you really are actually going to go forward with, and then dedicate your time to that. So,
and that's one of the tough things too, is how do you decide? Because I have that too, where it's like, and we've talked about it a little bit on the show, where you have these kind of big ideas and they, for whatever reason, they just don't feel right yet, whether it's like you're not ready to make them or they're not ready to come out. What's a good way to figure out like when the right time to bring them to life is?
For me, I really just go on intuition with pretty much everything in my life. It kind of presents itself, and you just kind of have to get out of the way and let it happen. I mean, overthinking things can be your biggest resistance as well. You really have to just be a conduit for the ideas to just express themselves, which sounds kind of mystical and lofty, but you can't plan everything. You just have to be there and be present when it presents itself, and then let it out in as least censored and least edited way as possible.
Yeah, and that's one of the hardest things to do, is to get out of your own way.
It is.
To let it kind of come out without your ego. It's kind of editing as it comes out.
Sure, you got to trust yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, can we talk a little bit about your actual art? What do you try to accomplish with your art?
Well, I guess in art history language, I'm called a social realist or a social commentary, which is basically a long line of artists fall within that category. People like, all the way back to Hieronymus Bosch and the Garden of Earthly Delights, and, up through, George Grosz in Germany, and the list goes on and on. Basically people who are concerned with the everyday struggles of, humankind, and basically painting your own history is what it is. I'm not a landscape painter, but I have a lot of landscapes in my work, but it's usually telling a bigger story about some social issue or political issue or my take on those things.
Do you feel that you are able to better kind of express yourself in that manner, like through your art, than you are in any other way?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm much better at expressing myself in art than I am in interviews.
Yeah.
But it's the language that I feel the most articulate in, for sure, and I always have, which is why I do it. And people have the greater response to my visual work than anything I'm going to say. So it's kind of a no-brainer.
It's fun to be able to find that thing where you can really express yourself the
most.
Yeah,
people take you seriously,
Yeah, with writing, I can much more eloquently communicate with my writing than I can in podcasting, for sure. I'm full of ums and likes and kind ofs absolutely. And stuff like that. But also, even in just arguments with my wife, like I'm like, I can't fully articulate what I want to what I'm trying to say. Like, let me write you like a letter, and then you'll be able to completely understand where I'm coming from. Yeah, I mean, being a good orator is certainly a skill. Absolutely. Politicians have that down. Yeah. Well, some of them do. Well, some of them do. Not Trump, but Obama was a hell of an orator. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Right. Can you take us back to one of your first creative moments and tell us that story? Yeah, sure. I mean, there's several, but they go way back. Apparently, I was around 7 years old when I really started getting into visual art. Every kid has crayons and coloring books and typewriter paper, whatever it is, around the house, and loves to draw. But I basically just never grew out of that. Never grew up. Yeah, I mean, I guess one of the first things I remember as far as the art making an impact on others, I mean, you can always do it for yourself, and you don't have to ever show your work, which is also fine. Then obviously you need to make a living doing something else. But God, it must have been elementary school. And I pretended to read the assigned book for the, I guess it's English class. One of those very easy books for kids to read. And at the time, I was not really into reading books. I was probably more interested in looking at the pictures. So for my book report in Mr. Conley's class, I remember I did this elaborate cover for the book report, and had this drawing, and it was really, really well presented, and he held it up in front of the class as an example of
pure dedication and excellence, and little did he know that I hadn't opened the book. I didn't read any of it. But so that was the moment that I realized that the power of the image, or at least my ability to manipulate the image, was going to get me somewhere. And it's been my means of opening doors for myself ever since.
Absolutely. Doesn't he know that you can't judge a book by its cover?
Apparently not. Yeah.
Got him.
Yeah. I mean, he thought, God, I love that book so much that I just went all for it. It was great.
Well done.
I got an A. Yeah, it was great.
Good job. I love that. So from there on, it was kind of like you just went straight through. Did you ever have any gaps kind of in your artistic journey?
Not really. I mean, there's days, or maybe weeks where you don't do anything. I suppose as a kid, I probably did it more consistently because you have less responsibilities to worry about. You just,
sure.
All you have to do is go to school, and that's pretty much it. Everything else is taken care of. So, yeah, I mean, there's really never been gaps that I can remember. I mean, I haven't decided to put it down. It's just one of those things. It's part of who I am. So, I mean, I'm sure people that, singing at 4 years old or whatever feel the same way. They're not going to just stop singing. So, yeah, it's always been there. It's always been there. It's a consistent thing in your life. Things come and go. Family members come and go. Pets. Partners, jobs, school. Friends, everything. But that's like the one thing that's it's not going anywhere. So you don't want to take that for granted.
That's why it's great to be able to hold on as you keep going and being able to incorporate in your life, regardless of kind of what career path you go down.
Sure.
Along that journey, have you ever had like a really terrible moment, like a worst moment creatively?
It's always been such a positive thing for me. I feel like the worst moments in life are usually not, it's everything else besides that, where things go wrong. That's like the one place where everything is kind of safe. I can see where it would be an issue for people, but you really just have to be confident in what you're doing. It's not really about selling or people liking what you're going to do. You just, if you're working sincerely and with complete integrity, there's really no way for it to go wrong.
Yeah, and as long as you don't have too lofty, I guess, of expectations about like the monetary, like changing your life immediately type of thing, and you just enjoy it like we were talking about, then you're right, nothing can go wrong.
Yeah, I mean, the art world is completely crazy. If anybody gets into fine art or anything in hopes of like striking it rich or making a living, they're completely delusional. It's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
There's much better ways, easier ways to make money. Go into finance,
Absolutely. Yeah. Keep them separate. And like you said, try to utilize that time where you're making the money to get in and out as quickly as you can.
Yeah. And any money you do make on your art is just gravy after that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's more of just like a thank you.
Yeah.
For the time.
It's an exercise, creating work, whether it's writing or singing or dancing or whatever, it's just, if you go too long without exercising, you get soft and stiff, and so it's just something you got to keep doing. For sure.
Going along with that, since it is all just good moments for you, which is awesome. Do you have a best moment?
Yeah, I mean, the book report was pretty good. That was
out with a bang.
That was a long time ago. Yeah, I started out with a bang. I remember not long after that, the girl I had a crush on in class also commented on my drawing, how she liked that. So that was also good.
Got her.
Yeah. Early on, and I wonder what she's doing these days. But I mean, recently, I guess I've been traveling a lot to study different cultures. Like I spent a lot of time in Mexico in the past couple of years, and that's another way to maximize your time is to just get out and go somewhere where nobody can reach you, and then you have complete free time. But obviously you have to save up and be able to have a flexible schedule to do that. Yeah, I mean, that was a very rewarding experience. I created a body of work in Mexico, traveling around the country by myself, and then was invited back the following year, which was this past November, to exhibit in the city of Oaxaca, and showing my interpretations of the country and the people and the folklore, and then having the Mexican people come to the show and talk to me about it. That was definitely a highlight.
Very cool. Yeah. And traveling is one of those pretty cool things that, like you said, maximizing your time because you can kind of get away from everybody, but also the experience of seeing new things every day and just traveling and just being in new places actually seems to slow time down. Yuko Shimizu was talking about that on the show. It's so true too. It's, when you're going through your everyday thing, you're just used to it and you just kind of go right through it and suddenly the day's over. But when you're traveling, it seems like a day is worth 2 days, which is pretty cool.
It is. It's absolutely true. It really, really slows down, and everything is fresh and around you. I mean, the language is new, the food, the people, the smells, everything, and you're just, our artists in general are pretty sensitive to, their surroundings, and there's just so much happening. If you can't be inspired with that way, I don't know what to tell you, but yeah, it's a great thing, and that's, I'll be doing the same thing in November this year. I'll be going to Panama, the San Blas Islands. I have an artist residency there for a month where I'll be basically living on a deserted island with the indigenous folks called the Guna, who've been there living autonomously forever. So,
oh my gosh, how'd you set that up?
It was a residency that's available, and I basically was accepted because of the work I did in Mexico. I had proof that I could,
proof of concept, yeah.
Proof of concept and could produce, and that's what they're looking for.
So cool.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. There's no electricity, no running water. I'll be eating coconuts and trying to figure out how to catch lobsters or whatever.
But you know what? That's so good for you though. Like to be able to do that, to like take a like almost retreat and escape from comforts that we have. Like it's a good thing. I think just in general, when you come back, it makes you much more appreciative.
Yeah, and that's what this residency was developed for. That was their goal, was to create an environment for artists to leave the modern world, which is getting completely insane. I mean, I'm talking into a phone with you right now, and
yeah,
things just get more and more advanced. It's crazy, and I just like everyone else, you become a slave to technology, and it'll be really nice to go somewhere where the phone doesn't have. I'll just shut the thing off for a month. There's no way to reach anybody. So it's just interesting, and we'll see what happens. I'll create a body of work and bring it back. Hopefully, introduce another culture that people aren't aware of.
It's hard too because like you said, we are a slave to it, and it feels like your phone is an appendage, and
absolutely.
If you're not checking it every second, you just feel lost. It's a bad thing.
It's a completely new thing too. I mean, I'm old enough where I grew up with a rotary phone on the wall, and I remember when pagers came out and beepers and all that stuff, and like it seems like the Stone Age compared to what's going on. I mean, I still resist technology on some level. I refuse to buy a computer. Like I haven't had a computer in 15 years, but if the phone is it is an appendage.
Yeah, it's necessary.
And it makes things a lot easier, especially when you're traveling. It's easier to book a flight and keep up to date with what's going on. So
yeah, and for emergencies too,
it's maps and everything else. But people did manage without them.
Yeah, it's crazy though because I can't. I'm one of the people that embrace it, but you can't imagine what it was like beforehand. Even though I did live through that, but it's the technology is so crazy, it happens so fast. But then you get used to it, like even quicker. Where it's just like, oh, this new thing comes out, and you're used to it by the next day. It's pretty crazy.
And it really is. Human beings are able to adapt to these things so quickly and master them. And kids that grow up, my nieces, they're wizards at these things. It's crazy.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know how I feel about it too sometimes because I'm like, my nephews have iPad things.
Sure.
That shows how old I'm getting. I'm calling them iPad things.
Right.
But, they're on them all the time. But at the same time, they're doing pretty cool stuff. Like they have Legos, but they're like making stop motion, like animations with them.
Right.
It's like the craziest thing. So like the technology really allows a little bit of artistic expression too. It's not just getting sucked into it. So I think there's a balance.
I guess we'll see. Time will tell,
For sure.
Art history will prove. We're still going to the great museums and looking at the paintings that were painted, 500 years ago. We'll see in 500 years from now if this technology is still relevant to human beings.
Absolutely. I wanted to touch on just how good of an opportunity that people can really take from that. Like if you have an opportunity to do something like go to Mexico, or even if you do have a full-time job or something crazy, like use your vacation to do something related to your art and take an opportunity like that, do something like that, and then you never know what other opportunities will come up,
That's exactly true. Yeah, I mean, it takes, it's risky. I'm not married. I don't have children. So I also have complete freedom basically to do what I want,
right.
Which is not, not everybody has that. But yeah, I mean, it is important. But then again, it really depends on, some people are really, there's hobbyists, and then there's people who are doing art as a career. So there's nothing wrong with, just drawing on the side a little bit just because it makes you happy or whatever. You don't have to, throw everything away. But you'll if you do need to do that, you'll know,
For sure. You're saying how, traveling gives you a lot of inspiration. Do you have a personal inspiration, like a person that you really look up to, that you are inspired by?
Yeah, absolutely. My mentor, Robert Senadella, who I've known for the past 10 years. I'm actually going to go meet him for a couple of drinks after this. But he's a fantastic guy. I mean, him and I hit it off. He's an instructor at the Art Students League of New York, where I fell into his class years ago. And he's 77 years old, but we're more or less the same person, 40 years apart. We have the same sensibilities, when somebody walks into a room, we both notice the same thing. And, it's just one of those connections. And he's taught me a lot about the intangibles of being an artist, how to keep your integrity. And, he always says, never quit your day job. You can't really say enough about something like that. That's something I would write. If you meet someone who you look up to, get to know them, listen to them, and especially if they're older and they have a lot to pass down technically and, spiritually, everything.
Absolutely. And then if you can find that kind of trusted person, actually trust them, don't just listen to them, but don't take their words into action and then have to learn the lesson yourself. Just trust that what they're saying is legit.
Yeah. I mean, you can learn a lot from our elders. They've done it all. They've been there.
Do you have anything coming up before you head to Panama?
Yeah, well, I have the show at Sonny's right now, Sonny's Bar in Brooklyn, which is a legendary institution. It's been there since 1890. It was run by an artist named Sonny Balzano, who just passed away recently, and his wife is still in charge. We opened up there on this past Sunday. Great reception. And, the work looks wonderful in that room. After that, I'll have another show this September in downtown Manhattan. And then July, I'll be doing a lot of stone lithography in the printmaking studio, starting a new large-scale oil painting as well. And then November will come pretty quick to go to Panama.
Wow, that's very cool, though. You got a lot coming up, so
yeah,
we'll make sure that we link that in the show notes page.
Yeah, this year's booked. Yep,
very cool.
Good.
All right, Jeff, it is time for the final push, and this is where I ask you to reach through the microphone and grab the shoulder of one of the listeners that you've already really inspired today, that's thinking, maybe I need to get back to work now, and give them your best advice and push them to do their creative pursuits.
The best advice I can give is to just trust yourself. People know what they need to do. They try to get around the issue. They try to ignore it. But if you follow your intuition and you know that I need to paint, I need to sing, I need to do whatever, you just have to do it. You got to find a way to get out there, do your thing. Don't question yourself. I mean, leave that up to the critics to do. A friend of mine says there's two kinds of people in the world. There's people that do and there's people that talk about doing. So you really got to be the former.
Absolutely. Like we've talked about before, it's binary. It's a 1 and it's a 0. And all it takes is just deciding to do it, and then you're a 1.
That's really it. I mean, and you feel immediately the benefits of personal expression. I think it's probably the healthiest thing that a human being can really do on a personal level. I mean, helping others is the most important, but just working on yourself to express your own thoughts and feelings is a good step in the right direction. Yeah,
and it helps to shake you out, just like traveling kind of does. It just shakes you out of this kind of monotonous everyday path that you've put yourself on with whatever career that you've chosen or whatever bad habits that you do every single day. It allows you to learn about yourself and just figure yourself out so that you can express yourself in that way.
That's right.
Jeff, thank you so much for coming on the show today and for giving us that push.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And you can find Jeff on his website, which is jefftocci.com, JEFFTOCCI.com. On Facebook, he is Jeff Tocci Art, and on Instagram, J Tocci Art. And of course, you can find all the links we talked about today at our show notes page at yourcreativepush.com/Jeff Tocci. Jeff, thanks again, brother.
Take it easy.
A huge thank you to Jeff for coming on the show today. He brings up such a good point there at the end that it is one of the best things that you can do for yourself to actually pursue your creative pursuits, whatever they are, because it's one of the best ways to really find out about yourself, to find out what your place in the world is, what you really care about, and what you want to say, how you want to express yourself into the world, what you want to communicate from within you, out of you. And I think a lot of times if you're not able to find that outlet to get those things out of you, it really can start to tear you apart. And you might not be even consciously aware of it, that this thing that keeps nagging to get out, you keep pushing it down, and it's going to have to seep out in some way. And sometimes those are negative ways. So it's a really good therapeutic expression that you really need to make sure that you incorporate into your life to get it out there. And like Jeff said, it's all about utilizing those minutes and hours that you can find every day and really trying to ride the wave of creative expression. Whenever you're feeling it, just make sure you take advantage of that time and get the output. And if you happen to be at work, make sure you have a sketchbook with you or whatever it is that you can jot your ideas down so you can get to them later. It's a tough balance, but it's a balance that I know you can do. On tomorrow's show, we have Marta Bevacqua.
The way is very, very long. It's long and you never can see the end of the way, of the road. But never give up, never, because if you really want to do it, you can do it.
Marta is a super talented photographer from Italy, now living in Paris, and she has one of the coolest accents that I know of. And she comes on the show tomorrow to share her artistic journey, how she got into photography, and how she continues to do the work even when it gets hard. But that is for you tomorrow. Hopefully you're inspired today to go and get your work done. So go and get it done. Thank you so much for listening, and we will be here for you tomorrow if you need the push again. Have a great and productive day, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye.